Okay, Shalom. This is part 3. Their ancestors historically inhabited much of what is now East Texas, Louisiana, and portions of southern Arkansas and Oklahoma. They were descendants of the Caddo Mississippian culture that constructed huge earthwork mounds. Mounds. This sounds like the same mounds, the people that made the earthwork mounds that are called Ouachita Moors. M-U-U-R. Yes. It's all coming together. They were descendants of the Caddo Mississippi culture that constructed huge earthwork mounds at several sites in this territory. In the early 19th century, Caddo people were forced to a reservation in Texas. They were removed to Indian Territory in 1859. Now, today, the Caddo Nation of Oklahoma is a federally recognized tribe. So that's a fictitious tribe, federal, with its capital at Binger, Oklahoma. Descendants of the historic Caddo tribes with documentation of at least 1/16th ancestry are eligible to enroll as members of Caddo Nation. The several Caddo languages have converged into a single language. Pre-contact history. Caddo Mississippian culture. Archaeology. The Caddo are thought to be an extension of woodland period peoples, the Fort Maline of Mossy Grove cultures, whose members were living in the area of Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas between 200 BCE and 800 CE. The Ouachita and Pawnee are related to the Caddo, as both tribes speak Caddo languages. By 800 CE, this society had begun to coalesce into Caddo Mississippi culture. Some villages began to gain prominence as ritual centers. Leaders directed the construction of major earthworks, serving as temple mounds and platforms for residents of the elite. The flat-top mounds were arranged around level, large, open plazas, which were usually kept swept clean and were often used for ceremonial occasions. Oral history, Caddo oral history of their creation. Story says the tribe emerged from a cave called Chakadania, or the place of crying, located at the confluence of the Red River of the south of Mississippi River in northern present-day Louisiana. Their leader, named Moon, instructed the people not to look back. That sounds something like Lot's wife, don't look back. An old Caddo man carried with him a drum, a pipe, and fire, and all of which had continued to be important religious items to the people. His wife carried corn and pumpkin seed. As people accompanying animal emerged, the wolf looked back. The exit from the underground closed to remaining people and animals. The Caddo people moved west along the Red River, which they called Batenio, and Caddo. A Caddo woman, Zakado, instructed the tribe of the hunting, fishing, home, construction, and making clothing. Caddo religion focused on Kadi Haya, translating to Lord above or Lord of the sky. In early times, the people were led by priests, including a head priest, the Zenesi, who could commune with spirits residing near Caddo temples. A cycle of ceremonies developed around important periods of corn cultivation. Tobacco was and is ceremonially. Early priests drank the purifying sacraments made with wild olive leaves. Let's see where we at now. Territory. Centuries before the extensive European contact, some of the Caddo territory was invaded by migrating years of warfare with the Iroquois in the Ohio River area of present-day Kentucky. The Iroquois took control of the territory and became dominant in the region of the present-day Missouri, Arkansas, and eastern Kansas. These tribes had become settled in their new territory west of the Mississippi prior to the 18th century European contacts. Most of the Caddo historically lived in the Piney Woods ecoregion of the United States, divided among the state regions of East Texas, southern Arkansas, western Louisiana, and southeastern Oklahoma. This region extends up to the foothills of Ozark. And that's funny too, because stuff just popped in my head, and if it don't make sense to you, it makes sense to me, because that's how I had a great uncle. They called him OZ. Foothills of the Ozark. The pine woods are a dense forest and deciduous and pine pata flora, covering the rolling hills, steep river valleys, and interminate wetlands called bayous. Caddo people primarily settled near the Caddo River. When they first encountered Europeans and Africans, the Caddo tribe organized themselves in three confederacies: the Natchitoches, Hasina, and Caddo Hadacho. They were loosely affiliated with other neighboring tribes, including the Yawani, a Choctaw band. The Natchitoches lived in now northern Louisiana, and Hasiani lived in East Texas, and the Caddo Hacho lived near the border of Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. The Caddo people had a diet based on cultivated crops, particularly corn, but also sunflower, pumpkins, and squash. These foods held cultural significance, as did wild turkeys. They hunted and gathered wild plants as well. Post-contact history. And then I'll end it probably there for time's sake. Let's see if there's anything else I need to. But actually, I done provided a lot of information, so that's think I've proven the point. Post-contact history. The Caddo first encountered Europeans and Africans in 1541 when the Spanish Hernando de Soto expedition came through their lands. The Spanish Hernando de Soto expedition came through their lands. So who was these people if the Spanish Hernando de Soto expedition came through their lands? De Soto forced and had a violent clash with one band of Caddo Indians, the Tula people, near present-day Caddo Gap, Arkansas. This historic event had been marked by the modern town with a monument. French explorers in the early 18th century encountered the Natchitoches in northern Louisiana. The Natchitoches in northern Louisiana, they were followed by fur traders from outposts along the Gulf Coast, and later by missionaries from France and Spain. And see, that's another thought that I had too, because I'm just speaking of what I've been told, what's been shared with me, because my grandmother, who I told you that came from Arkansas, told me that the land, now look this up yourself, I'm not saying this is what it is, I'm telling you what was told me, and basically what I've seen, like say northwest of Mexico, which the Moors say, basically is basically saying Mexico. And the people that they're called Mexicans today are actually descendants of us, not the Spaniards. It's telling you right here. It just told you that Spanish Hernando de Soto came through their lands. French explorers, French explorers in the early 18th century encountered the Natchitoches in northern Louisiana. They were followed by fur traders from outposts along the Gulf Coast, and later by missionaries from France and Spain, who also traveled among the people. The Europeans carried infections such as smallpox, measles, because they were endemic in their societies, As the cattle people had no acquired immunity to such new diseases, they suffered epidemics with high fatalities that decimated the tribal population. Influenza, malaria also devastated the cattle. Abaya. Man, don't get mad at me. I'm just a messenger. You got something that you got beef, take that to Abaya. He the one that reveals all truth through his spirit. So don't get mad at us. Take it to him. If you're bad. Shalom.